Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has since approved an emergency humanitarian waiver, as you heard the minister say, which will allow people to continue accessing HIV treatment funded by the U.S. across 55 countries worldwide. Let's move on to one of our top stories again. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the South African National Defence Force soldiers are in a safe place, and the president has been speaking to a number of heads of state as well, including Rwanda, on efforts to ensure that there's a ceasefire, while Defence Minister Angie Motshekga gave a comprehensive update on the situation on the ground with all the processes that are currently underway to try and quell the tensions and find a lasting solution in the eastern DRC. Let's look at what will it take to get to that point and who needs to be at the table. Joining us now is former SA Ambassador to the DRC, Sisa Ngombane. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's just start with your take on what we are seeing unfolding currently in the eastern DRC.
No, thank you very much for the invite. I think it is with great sadness that one heard the news and followed the unfolding catastrophe in the eastern part of the DRC. I think it has been going on, but then it affected so many of our young people who have gone there to secure peace, to keep peace for the ordinary people in the DRC. That's what has come down to all of us as South Africans. It's very, very painful. That's why let me take also the moment to just pass my condolences to the families of the soldiers that have passed on there, who are women and men, both in the deployment of the therapists, also women and men in the forefront.
And still on that point, before we even get, take a step back into the context, the president also in his statement expressing his condolences to the families, but also saying that the country must honor and mourn the heroes, and those who were taking part and continue to still be there in the eastern DRC. How does the country begin to do this?
I think one has to welcome the outrage that has been expressed by many South Africans on the killing of our young soldiers that are deployed in DRC. There's common ground from every political party, from every citizen, that this is really unacceptable and it's outrageous. Now, it's a question of how to do it going forward. I think the little understanding, I think, when following the news, is that people have to understand that we have been in the DRC as early as 1994, even before that, to try and bring stability in the DRC, because DRC, a war was raging in the east of dramatic proportions. And therefore, as South Africa could not sit back, even as we were starting our democratic journey. So it's a struggle, an African struggle that we have been engaged in. And actually, DRC holds the key to how the African continent will move forward as a continent that can take care of itself, both resources, human, natural, and all these natural resources for development. So that's why it is important that we all understand that this is not just a small engagement, not an event. We have lost soldiers in the DRC. We are part of the MONUSCO, which is the United Nations mission on the Congo, with accidents and other things, and we enjoyed those. But the key thing is that we must understand that this is an African endeavor, and for us, it begins in the DRC that we must be involved there if Africa is going to have peace, and if especially SADC is going to enjoy the development we wish.
You served as ambassador to the DRC from 1999 to 2006, and there have been many processes also to try and find a solution to what's going there. One such process, for example, was that Sun City Agreement, which is seen by some, including former President Thabo Mbeki, as one that would have helped to avoid where things are finding themselves now. Let's start perhaps with the contents of that document.
I think the critical thing that document that tried to achieve was to give what we call the transitional constitution for the DRC. You must remember that the DRC had been governed by the former Mobutu, who really ran it as his own system. Now, when the conflict started, when we went into the roots of the conflict, it became clear that a new constitution was necessary. And to guide the Congolese political task into how the Congolese must govern themselves. This was critically important, and this is a very important condition that SADC and South Africa made to, at the end of that process, to have an elected government in the Congo, because without a properly elected government, people were saying, Congo is free for all, the dictators are there, everyone does what they want, armed groups. But we put into place an elected government and removed the reason for people to say we have nobody to talk to when we talk to the Congo. So it is very, very critical for all of us to understand that.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of resources. IEC South Africa was involved. The private sector contributed in conducting those elections. So it's a very important contribution to the stability of the continent and of SADC and we're part of SADC.
So in your view then, why was it not implemented?
No, it was implemented. There was always, I think we have to accept that a holistic DRC that comes together threatens a lot of people.
And who would those people be?
No, part of the problems, the perennial problems of the East is the rich mineral resources that it is endowed with. Congo is endowed with many mineral resources, but particularly in the east of Congo, you've got cobalt, you've got all these minerals that have been used for the cell phone industry and all these industries that we use now. And there's been an unrelenting trade that has been going on through that part, not going to the capital, Kinshasa, not authorized by Kinshasa, but you look at the books, you find that there's been a lot of exports from countries like Rwanda, even Uganda at some point, of these mineral resources. And therefore, the instability there and lack of governance has profited many. And I'm dare to say that it was not only the regional partners, but also global. It has been a big interest for people who want to profit.
And I suppose that's why then we're seeing what we're seeing now.
Clearly, that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now, because it's to reverse all these efforts that were put to stabilize the Congo. As you can see, globally, the world is fragmenting. There's a lot of things, uncertainty. And what is the best way, but the easiest thing is to target the Eastern Congo. Now, the critical thing about this is that if you say Goma is falling, this is not the end of the story. I think let's not fool ourselves about this. We have seen this movie again. When Goma falls, the next is Kindu, and then next is Mubasi, and then the whole country is going to be in chaos. So we are sitting at the precipice of a very, very huge development. And therefore, the calls from South Africans have got to be that we need to reflect. We have suffered losses. We've got troops that have been deployed as part of the Southern African Intervention Force. Clearly, we cannot allow a repeat of 1994-1995 to happen. We need to find a way of stopping the rolling of arms coming from the east of the DRC. They must be stopped immediately. That's why the call by our President, Cyril Ramaphosa, and the minister, that an immediate ceasefire is absolutely necessary. And there must be no conditionality about it. The ceasefire must be held, and everyone, there's a forum for people, whether it's Rwanda or Uganda or any country that feels they must be part. There's peace negotiations, Angola has been having this, but people must go and sit in the negotiating table and address those.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. That was Sisa Ngombane, the former SA ambassador to the DRC.